us virtually is Dr. Wisdom Enang. Good morning. It's always refreshing to have you on the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let me take you up with the first report here. Kano government seeks Assembly's approval for 99 billion naira. I mean, if you add 1 billion naira to it, it might as well be 1 trillion naira. But my question is this actually justifiable for just one state?
You know, the thing is, so a number of questions, right? When I hear this sort of things is, the first thing, is it justifiable? That's the first thing. What is their current debt, profile looking like, or debt to income profile looking like? And what projects is this going to be put on? Is it going to be used? Because my biggest worry with, using it for infrastructure projects is who's going to pay for it? Are you just betting against the next, say, federal allocation, which you're not sure whether it's going to be a surplus of what you're earning or lower than what you're earning? Because it depends on the oil, sort of throughput that we have at the end of the day and the prevalent international oil price. So my worry is it worth it? Has someone done the math? And who ratifies this sort of loans? Because my understanding is that before you get loans of this sort, somebody must surety for it. So is the federal government suretying? Have they checked that that state is able to pay back? Because you do not want another embarrassment, just like the headlines of the Chinese seizing the Nigerian fleet simply because one state was owing it. So we should now know that one embarrassment for one state is actually an embarrassment for the whole nation, because when another party wants to act against the interest of the nation because of one state's infringement, they do not act say, well, who is it? Which state are you from? All they know is that we are all Nigerians, and that's what it's supposed to be. So yes, I don't think at this point in time, based on the economic fundamentals and realities, that it is a wise decision to be going for at the moment.
Right. You know, this conversation around this conversation we're having now is something that we've heard over time. But if we're going to look at our debts, Nigerians or the country at large taking debts for projects, sometimes they say when you're going to take a debt, it should be for something that, would yield more money so that you can make profits even when you pay off the debt. But most times we take debts and at the end of the day, it's not even used for what exactly it was gotten for. How exactly do we manage the situation and start to look more into generating revenue internally so that we can actually finance some of these things? Or is it that we cannot finance some of these projects from our internally generated revenue?
I mean, we can, but let me just answer your question. I'd like to give you a very, very, sort of honest answer. When you think about it, I think you have to walk backwards to the motive, and the motive will tell you what someone's trying to achieve. And I'll give you context, and I'm not trying to play out or tell you that this is an active scenario in this context. You see somebody and they have a 4-year administration, and they're thinking, okay, what do? We need money really quickly, and we need to get our money quick. Can we do set up a project, do all our maths, show them that we can pay them back with future earnings? So you're basically mortgaging the future. And then let's get a loan, award these projects to our proxies, let our proxies execute it, and then we mark up, let's say, about 200% on the normal value for the project. And then we get out the differential and put it in our pockets. To that person, that would make perfect sense why they should actually opt to go for a quick loan like that. But if the objective was to say, well, let's see how we can boost our internal revenue, let's see how we can lock up some of the areas where there are leakages, let's see how we can clean up the system, get the excess cash, and begin to sort of do an infrastructure development project over a period of time. And even if we cannot progress really, go as fast as we want, we'll have a blueprint that allows the next administration to pick up from there and continue. Then the motive will be quite different. So everything, I mean, that was just me putting out 2 generic scenarios. And that's to show you that everything evolves around what is the purpose, what is the motive. And it's not, sometimes when you see the outcomes, you drill back to the motive, you find out that yes, it's always very consistent. There's that homogeneous consistency between the way they want to do things and their intentions at the end of the day. You will not be surprised.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move your thoughts to the Punch newspaper this morning, which says the external auditors to examine NNPC 2.6 trillion naira subsidy claim. I remember last year we were told that Nigeria, the subsidy removal had saved Nigeria about 1 trillion naira, and I lost track of the whole sum at this point, so we don't even know how much it is, but we are getting 2.6 trillion. But my first question is, with this external auditors coming into play, do you think that we will be able to get a thorough report, audit report of what is actually going on in the NNPC as regards to the subsidy claim? And secondly, what about auditing the entire NNPC? Do you think that we can actually get that done in this present administration?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, you're right. When it comes to auditing the NNPCs, there are several unknown unknowns and there are several known knowns. And the way I'd like to say is, the big unknown is how much is Nigeria's real PMS consumption? Because that has been one thing that it looks like. I mean, before, when we used to pay our subsidy payments to different people for importing it, it was, it was so large a number that I was wondering if it's Nigeria times 4 that is consuming this amount. And now that subsidy is out, but only paid to the NNPC, you've seen a different figure. So the question is, and then sometimes you see scarcity and we're wondering, were we under planning? The question is, what is the basis that will be used for the calculation? Because audit or not, there are some scams, I like to say, if you're trying to find those scams, that are not as black or white. They're sometimes very gray. And the gravishness, the scale of the gravishness would actually depend on the numbers. For example, the amount of consumption. So I think it is important that we audit it. But while I was speaking to the numbers for Nigeria's consumption, was that if we, then what is the confidence of the figures that you're going to be auditing? It's more like a procedural audit, less than more, and not really an audit to say this is a forensic audit. What, why are we having this number? Why are we having this? So just to give you my thoughts, it's a cautious optimism, because I expect at the end of the day, procedural audit. Did you follow this process? Did you follow this process? Okay, why was this not done this way? Why was this not ratified at this point? This is what I expect. I don't think they will come out to say, oh, this number is not correct. We expect 3-point-something billion, trillion, or whatever, or 1-point-something trillion. I don't expect any of that to happen. I expect more of a procedural, audit.
Right. Dr. Wisdom Enang, let me take you up on a headline on the Vanguard newspaper, very disturbing one. Agony in Southeast as kidnappers lay siege to communities. Now, we understand the fact that the conversation around insecurity, banditry, kidnapping has been going on for a very long time now. And even though we keep asking questions where our service chiefs, our security operatives, what is happening, every day it keeps getting worse. Now, the Vanguard newspaper has it that a lot of communities in the Southeast are unable to even live their lives normally because kidnapping has become the order of the day. I would like to get your perspective on this particular headline and how you think this situation can be managed, connecting it to the story on the Punch newspaper where the Inspector General of Police has vowed to rescue 2,149 kidnapped victims.
Thank you. It's really disturbing. And sometimes I kind of ask myself to say, what is the real goal? Are we trying to, put out a Nigeria that is going to be united and stand? Because insecurity is one of the things that can destabilize the country. And my biggest question is, right, are these people that are perpetuating these crimes, are they completely invisible? And even if they are their sponsors also invisible and invincible? Because I mean, I cannot understand, why people would seem to be bigger than the government, seem to be able to do things that will alter the lives of the normal people, and it's been going on for long. So I think I would only encourage the service chief, if they really want to do something about it, please, they should, because at the end of the day, we're hearing statistics, but sometimes it hits home, and you find out that these statistics could have been you, could have been me, could have been anybody, and it's not for their own doing. It's good to hear they want to rescue that amount, but I'm asking, what informs the figure? Is that figure as a result of the fact that that's the number of kidnapped victims that have not been accounted for or released at the moment? Is that figure, a target? And if so, what is the full amount? So there's a number of things. But my question is not about the talk. I think my biggest challenge is not about the talk, rather. My biggest challenge is, what are you going to do differently? The same army outfits, the same security outfits, will be having the same results. Albert Einstein would say that you cannot achieve a different result by thinking in the same way that created the problem in the first instance. So my question is, you have come out to say you have a target of XYZ people to rescue. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? And how are you going to do it? And no security would be, robust to the level that we want it without being able to integrate inputs from the society and people. So how are you going to achieve that? Because these kidnappers live somewhere. These kidnappers are able to work somewhere, and that's how they're functioning. So how are you able to get the people on board rather than see you as a nuisance? Because right now, the average person, when you see law enforcement, you think, please, these guys, why are they're going to disturb me? And, rather than see that, but you see them as your friend. I'm not saying they're a nuisance, but I'm saying that that's the average way the person in the street sees it. And this average person is the one that is seeing the crime. How are you going to rebuild that confidence? How are you going to erase that, thoughts about, if I see law enforcement, they'll most likely harass me. That's really what you need to do. And then build your own intelligence systems to achieve this. So let's go beyond the rhetoric of achieving this, but to how, what are you going to do? And then who are you going to work with?
All right, thank you very much. Before we go, let's quickly move your attention to the Punch newspaper. A very strong claim coming from a PDP chieftain. He says the electorate won't vote APC come 2027 as a result of the current hardship. Now, in your opinion, with everything that is going on, do you think the current hardship is enough to sway the minds of the electorate or Nigerians not to vote in APC come 2027?
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to answer this with a scientific, illustration. There was a person that an experiment was done, and some people said, okay, which will you prefer? Would you prefer 3 minutes of acute pain, or 2 minutes of acute pain, and then maybe about a minute of very slow pain, but very, very light pain? And sorry, I take it back. An experiment was done, and someone said, okay, they did an experiment, split people into two. Would you prefer light pain for 1 minute and 2 minutes of acute pain? Or would you prefer 2 minutes of acute pain and 1 minute of light pain? So, yeah. So what happened is that at the end of the day, they gave them a form to fill to declare which one was better. And every one of them that tested both said they actually preferred the pain at the beginning and then less pain at the end, right? Mm-hmm. That is because the last thing in the human mind, the last thing that they feel always sticks in their brain, okay? So what this guy is trying to say is not as straightforward, and I'm going to give you context. What if the APC-led government get us through these turbulent times, and suddenly, a year before election, they make everything so easy that you're like, this is the El Dorado.
Yeah.
That sticks in your energy. Everybody votes them. They say, well, we came here, we've gone through the turbulence, now it's steady, it's brilliant, now vote us again to continue that. What do you think is going to happen with my illustration? Everyone is going to vote based on the last psychology that's stuck in their brains. So I don't think what he's saying would hold a little bit of water, just based on how human psychology works.
Right. That's a very safe place to land there, Dr. Wisdom Enang. And thank you so much for joining us on the newspaper review segment this morning and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deeply appreciate. Do enjoy your morning.
And you too.